Welcome back, Shalloners. Well, today we're going to keep talking about LEA MICHELE and the fallout from all of her previous co-stars coming out of the woodwork and being like, yeah, she's a complete dick. And we talked about her in the last video on the psychology of a bully and how to combat a bully, 9 steps to do that using scientifically based methods. So go ahead and check that out. But today we're going to tackle a bit of a different angle. What happens if maybe you were the mean girl? Ugh. How do we move past our own mean girl history? What fuels it? What can we do to combat it so we don't end up like LEA MICHELE? Just like in any possible category. We're also going to tie this in to the Karen mentality. And I'm going to break down what a Karen is if you guys aren't familiar with the term. Maybe you're not from America. I hope to God there's not Karens in other countries, but I'm sure that there is. I'm sure there's someone in Australia. You know, Australia is like the Texas of the British Empire, right? And there's a lot of Karens in our Texas. But before we get started, just want to remind you that if you have a love question of your own or you have a cameo, if you have a love question, go to my website, shallonlester.com, and click Get Help. But if you would like a video shout out for a friend, for yourself, get a question answered that way, find me on Cameo at ShallonXO, and be sure to follow me on Instagram at ShallonXO as well. So let's talk about LEA first, okay? And then we'll get into all this. So LEA, bad things have been coming out. Everyone from her understudy when she was 12 is like, she made me cry every day, to a bunch of cast members on Glee, both minor cast members and major players being like, she was always such an asshole. She was so rude and entitled. I have personally heard so many stories about her just being rude, like on the New York scene, like rude to photographers, rude to publicists, a diva at events. And it's like, she was talented, but it's like, it's crazy when people who are on TV shows act like that. And there really is a big difference between a TV star and a movie star. A movie star is like, you're a movie star. You know, you could win an Oscar or whatever. A TV star, it's like, dude, your show could get canceled tomorrow. The writers could write you off tomorrow and that would be it. Look at Katherine Heigl. Oh, yeah. Wait, who? Yeah, exactly. Remember that bitch? Remember how she withdrew from Emmy nominations because she said the writing on Grey's Anatomy was so bad she didn't think she deserved an award? Can you imagine going to war like that with people who you work with? It's crazy. And her career has not really gone anywhere. She's gotten a really bad reputation. She's a diva to work with. She's ungrateful. And it's like, okay, she's talented. Do you really think you can't find people who are as talented as Katherine Heigl? Now, I think LEA MICHELE is probably more talented. She can sing like crazy. She's a great actress. But again, there's a lot of really good actors and singers in Hollywood. I mean, they get off the bus from Iowa every single day. And so the attitude is such a cautionary tale. It's like, you can be talented and you don't have to be a jerk about it. That's crazy. Wait a minute. You can be talented and be a bit magnanimous about it and not as much of a C-face? Wild. So all these things have been coming out about her. And now there's a story in the Post. LEA MICHELE in tears as she vows to learn from her mean girl behavior. She's had a real wake-up call. A friend told the Post. A friend. It's LEA. You know, one of the things I like to do here on this channel, not just level us up in terms of relationships and all this stuff, but also shine a light on the reality of the Hollywood gossip machine. Friend of is her. A source close to is almost always the celebrity, right? This is her way of issuing a statement without having to do it, so that if people don't like this statement, oh, well, she's not part of it. I didn't say it, so there can be no backlash. It's smart. It's never easy to hear people speak about you in this way. It's a total shock. LEA was a bitch to a lot of people who are now taking the opportunity to come forward. She may not be the nicest person, but she's not racist, sexist, or transphobic. I would say she has behavioral issues. She's dealing with behavioral issues. Is she a Bichon Frise? Like, are you a small dog that just, like, behavioral issues? You're an adult. You're 33. You're just an asshole. Like, if your behavioral issues started when you were 8 and lasted until you're 33, that is simply called your personality. It's just like behavioral issues. She's listening. She hears what everyone says and wants to apologize. She won't. This is her past and she wants to handle things responsibly. She won't. Okay, so, you know, it's interesting. that the source made a point to say she might not be nice, but she's not racist, sexist, or transphobic. And that's been kind of the debate. It's like, because people were asking some of the old Glee cast members, like, do you think she was treating you this way because she was racist? And they're like maybe, but it was also just her. It was a larger pathology than race. Like that would almost be the best case scenario, because you can unlearn racism. You can like realize, hey, you know what? We're all the same person under whatever skin color, hair color, wig, hoodie, whatever it is we're wearing. We have the same hopes, the same fears, the same dreams in life. We want the same things for ourselves and our families. But if you view all human beings as less than you, dude, that's an uphill battle. So I don't think she's like driven by a racial bias or a transphobic bias. I think she's just driven by a human bias. That's not good. Lea's not going to change. Lea's not going to change. If she didn't learn her lesson watching her career essentially implode, like Glee ended in 2015, that's 5 years ago. And what has she done? She hasn't done, to my knowledge, like any, like TV. She done any TV? I don't think so. She hasn't. Oh, she did that unwatchable movie Valentine's Day. No, thank you. Or no, I'm sorry. It was New Year's Eve. Whatever. Unwatchable. And you would think she would look back and be like, hey, I'm still really talented. I still had a fan base. Why aren't people hiring me? And you would think someone in her circle would have been like, it's how you behave, girl. It's not your talent. It's clearly not your talent. It's like you. And those two things have to walk hand in hand. And we see this in offices, right? In our businesses, our restaurants, wherever we work. It's like someone might be a talented graphic designer, but if they are just awful, you don't want them in your workplace. And I've been reading some articles on this, on mean girl mentality, and a lot of them tackle the question of, do mean girls become mean women at work? And they were all like, yes. Yes, they do. Yep, sure do. Let me read to you from our personal Bible, Psychology Today. So Dr. Gabriella Cora did a paper on this, and she said something really interesting. She said, we would love to think that some, like mean girls, will outlive their evil ways, but that seems unlikely considering how adamantly they enjoyed their power as teenagers. Puppies in training can change, but they really need to want to change. While it's certainly true that some could overcome their bad girl images and lose that poisonous attitude, others will become the perpetrators at work. In their own minds, what's the difference between high school and the real world anyway? So how will this show? Not that differently from the way they operated in school, unfortunately. The behavior tends to be the same. Plotting like a victim to get group support, backstabbing others to find support in colleagues, and then there's the ultimate question to move on to upper management to stay in power. What does this have to do with Lea? What does this have to do with larger conversations we're having in America right now? Well, it goes back to the Karen mentality. Now, like I said, hopefully you don't have Karens in your country. Hopefully you don't. But what a Karen is here is Kate Gosselin used to be kind of like the ultimate Karen, like the haircut, like the weird mom haircut, freshly ironed khaki jorts, right? Or I guess shorts. Jorts would be jeans. Either one. They have kids. They have a minivan. They want to speak to the manager. They do not want to wait in line. They do not think rules apply to them. They are yelling at you. And it's sort of an embodiment of this entitled middle-aged woman and white women. And I'm white. I don't like racial stereotypes against my race any more than anyone likes racial stereotypes against their race, because you look at those stereotypes and you're like, well, that's not me, and that's not the people I know, and I don't act like that, and my mom doesn't act like that, and her friend. So I really don't want people to think that that's the way just white people are. And it's hurtful. And it's then when I see Karens, they make me so mad, because I'm like, do you fucking know what you're doing to us? Like, you are making us all look like such dicks, okay? Like, so just put a bag over your head so we can even see what race you are, and just, ugh. And that's, a Karen is born of entitlement. Born of entitlement. And the phrase white privilege has been coming up a lot, and privilege, I think, almost misses the mark a little bit, because a lot of people, they didn't grow up privileged, so they don't think it applies to them. It's like, well, I grew up like poor, like I had a single mom, we lived in an apartment, like how am I so privileged? That's not a label that they had ever self-applied. But entitlement, I think, is much more relatable. All of us have felt entitled at some point or another. No matter what color we are, no matter how old we are, no matter what we do for a living or our socioeconomic status. And if you don't think you have ever in your life felt entitled, girl, you can't change what you don't acknowledge, right? And we're all either part of a problem or part of a solution. An acknowledgement that like, hey, every bad behavior that I see in society, I have either probably done myself, just like, or like related to that behavior. You know, I've been entitled. I haven't been this entitled, insane Karen in Central Park calling the police on a peaceful black man bird watching who asked you to put a leash on your dog. And she has become a symbol of the ultimate Karen, because the Karen has moved from, I want to speak to the manager at Kohl's, why won't you let me return this pack of Maidenform bras, to I'm going to call the police on black people, on Latin people, on gay people. I'm going to enlist the ultimate manager, the cops, to shut down what I don't believe is a situation that should be happening. I believe rules only apply to me in the good way. They don't apply to me in the bad way. You know, like only the benefits of the law apply to me, but the downside of the law doesn't. And it's, you know, it's a slippery slope. That's how entitlement goes. And same with mean girl behavior. You know, like Dr. Cora said, like, the behavior doesn't stop when you're a teenager because you become addicted to that power. You become addicted to that power. And Leah is a Karen in training. Leah's become Karens, right? And so we look at people like Leah and we want to be like, oh, just, you know, maybe she was stressed. She was a big star. Again, we have all felt entitled. I don't want to wait in this line. I don't want to wait. This woman is taking so long at self-checkout at Target. Why shouldn't I be able to go ahead of her? I only have an orange. She has a whole cart full of stuff. I feel entitled to skip this line. We've all felt this way. I feel entitled to date this dude and to keep sending him pictures even though he's got a girlfriend. Who cares? I don't fucking care about her. I want what I want. Entitlement. And entitlement comes from a lack of personal power as a foundation. That's where this comes from. That's where a Karen is created. That's where a mean girl is created. Now, some mean girls aren't. And we talked about being a bully in the last video. And, you know, I shared some info that we society wanted for a really long time to think like, oh, bullies, they're just weak. No, they're just vulnerable. And they're acting out because they're wounded. No, they are not. No, they're not. A lot of times they're sociopaths or psychopaths. They have an abundance of self-esteem. They're narcissists. But if you're here on this channel, you're probably not that way. Because there's the other faction of mean girls. And I'm not going to say Karens, because Karens have jumped the shark and beyond, like I said, beyond being at Kohl's and wanting to talk to the manager, screeching over their latte being wrong. They have gone into something so incredibly detrimental to society and so just wicked. Watching that stupid bitch in Central Park, Amy Cooper, call the cops on Christian Cooper. And don't you love that they have the same last name? I was so hoping that they would somehow be related. Like someone's cousin married someone and he's going to see her at the family barbecue. Hi, Amy. It's like, you live in New York City, bitch. Have you never seen a black person? Is this like that jarring of an experience for you? Why do you live here? Go to like, I don't know, somewhere else. Don't go to the most diverse, dense city in the world and then be like, oh, is that a black person? But it came out that she has like a lot of issues. I mean, she's like completely nuts. Like, lies about things, crazy fake lawsuits. Like, there is a lot going on beneath the surface. So anyway, so we're going to talk about mean girls for the rest of this video, not Karens, because I don't believe any of us are Karen-ish. And we never will be, because again, if you're here on this channel, you want to get better. You're probably not a psychopath. You want to be your best self. And if you clicked on this video, and I was so proud of you guys, you even suggested this topic, because I'm like, wow, it takes a lot to look at yourself and your past and be like, I was a bit of a dick. But we all usually have been, right? And if you don't think you have been, then you probably think you had no power enough to be a dick. And that means you were nothing but a victim. Oh, guess what, girl? Victims are the worst perpetrators of all. Victims are the biggest mean girls. Victims are the biggest Karens. Because like the doctor said in that article, she's like victim support. They're always the victim. What is a Karen? I need to speak to the manager. I need to call the cops. I'm being victimized by Panera. I'm being victimized by this black man who went to Harvard and he's bird watching, told me to put a leash on my dog. right? Victims become covert bullies. So if you don't think that applies to you, you're most at risk, than all of us. So it really does take a strong stomach to look at our own behavior and be like, okay, I don't want to be this person. And if you don't want to be this person, that's probably because somewhere in your mind, you've seen that it doesn't yield the results I want. Doesn't yield the results I want. Okay. My mean girl era, if I had one, was probably elementary school. And none of us look back and like, I was such an asshole. We tend to blame our own faults on things that are external, and we blame our own successes on things that are internal. This is the psychology principle. Like, everything I've achieved, it's me and nobody else helped. Everything that's wrong with me, oh, well, that was situational and I was just acting out, blah, 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 right? Like, that's just how we process things. And yeah, if I was at my most like prickly, it was probably in elementary school. And I'm basing this on the fact that 2 of my best friends from elementary school don't want to be friends with me anymore. And I'm like, what did I do to you guys? And so the only thing I can figure is that I don't know, I was, I guess, harsh, or I was prickly. I was going through stuff, at home with my family, and I was acting it out. And that's the thing. I didn't feel like I had a lot of power. And this is like something I've talked about in therapy. And what kid does feel like they have power, Well, LEA MICHELE did. She hit it big on Broadway when she was 8. So she was paying the family's bills. She was a star. She did have power. And like we said in the other video, absolute power corrupts absolutely. Absolute compliments corrupt even worse. So that's why I don't think she's like racially motivated. I think she's just people motivated. No one is as good as me. No one has done what I've done. Fuck all of you guys. I can act however I want. None of you are a superhuman the way I am. So when I look back on my own, mean girl history, yeah, I didn't feel like I had a sense of power. And as I got older, I did develop more of a sense of power, as is natural as we mature and become a more autonomous person. And I realized that I started making better friends and having better friendships when I was in high school because I was doing more. I had extracurricular activities. I didn't when I was in elementary school, I just didn't. And in high school, I was doing ASB, like student council. I was playing hockey. I was writing. I was playing tennis. I was doing so many more things. So I had more of that core of self-esteem. So I didn't have to play God with a friendship group and get my yayas out and get my power that way. I wasn't a cold-blooded animal anymore. I was becoming a warm-blooded animal. And that carried on into college, but not for a minute. I got to college. I wasn't really doing anything. I was just joining the sorority. I felt myself becoming not a mean girl, because I feel like the other girls in my sorority were mean girls, but it was that tension. It was that friendship group tension. There was a Regina George, and it changed every day. And who's the Gretchen Wieners today? And blah, blah, blah. But then when I started getting more of a life, ROTC, improv, writing for the school paper, belly dance, volunteering, helping out with the campaigns, then I was able to compartmentalize all that drama. Then I was able to have more personal power. And so I didn't feel the need to ostracize anyone anymore. This was no longer, my sorority was no longer the place that I was getting my source of power from. I was getting it so many other places that it's like, oh yeah, weirdo, come sit with us. Like the weird girl in the sorority, the girl who wasn't very nice to other people. It was kind of whizzing by me and bouncing off of me because I had other things that I was thinking about. Sometimes clipping your mean girl thing it's as easy as just staying busy. It's easy as just staying busy. In New York City, the girls I met who were the biggest mean girls, and I mean like mean ass publicists, just punitive bitches who if you switch jobs, they were gonna let you know that you were no longer good enough to be on their invite list. Just these puppet masters. They were single. They didn't travel. They had no hobbies. I'm not saying single single women, but they had nothing to occupy their time. you know? And it's kind of like, well, it's the chicken and the egg. It's like, who would date someone who's punitive and crazy? But maybe if she was dating someone, she would get a better sense of the world and her place in it, and she would be more practiced at compromising within a relationship, at listening to someone else's problems, cultivating that empathy that sustains a long-term relationship, right? And I noticed that the meanest girls, they were just these like hermetically sealed units. They didn't have friends. They didn't volunteer for anything political. They didn't protest. They were just like, this was where they got their power. Work. This is it. They had no life. They had no life. And same with like dudes at work. This wasn't like a female only thing. It's more pointed when it's females, because I think men are empowered by society to be so much more blatant. You know, like, Rick, if you're late one more fucking time coming back from lunch, you're fired. Women, it's like, hey, do you remember how last week when you like said you had a dentist appointment, but then you came back with like a fresh frappuccino? Do you remember? It's just all so much fucking subterfuge. We can never just speak plainly. But men do this too, you know, and the men who I worked with who had no life were absolutely unbearable at the office. They were unbearable. But the people who had a healthy, balanced outside world, they were efficient because they wanted to get out of work. They were more reasonable. They had cultivated that empathy, and they just had compartmentalized work to be like, this is my job. This isn't where I get all my social needs met, okay? These aren't all of my friends. Look at the show The Office. Who was the most insufferable and mean person? Really, it was Michael Scott. He was an asshole to everyone. He was super mean. He was selfish. He was rude. He was inappropriate. And he was very Karen-ish. And that like rules don't apply to me. They apply to you, but they don't apply to me, right? And that's because Michael had no friends. He had no life. Jim, Oscar, Phyllis, they're chill. They got a life outside. You know, I'm going to go home. Bob Vance Refrigeration, he's waiting for me, you know? So this is what you got to ask yourself. Where are you getting your power? How, not just where, how many places are you getting your power? One place? Is it your sorority? Is it your job? Is it your boyfriend? And are there not really anything going on outside of that? Is it your family structure? Do you kind of get to rule the roost in your family structure because maybe your sister's a mess and mom is doing this and daddy's, you know, and also, okay, Shallon honesty time. I was a mean girl, I guess, in my last relationship. I mean, you could call it mean girl. I call it parent-child dynamic, and I've talked a lot about it, where my boyfriend was creating chaos, and therefore I was the parent. And it was very much a Kourtney Kardashian, Scott Disick thing. And because my Scott Disick was creating chaos, I had all this power. And because I had power, and because I wasn't the chaos machine, I could be mean. Because no matter how much I raged in a fight, I wasn't still making as many problems as he was. So I felt entitled, to act like that. Do you see how these things, they all connect? They all fuse. And you don't just have an issue in one category of your life. And that's what's hard to realize. You don't have an entitlement issue at work. You have an entitlement issue. You don't have a poor communication issue with your relationships. You have a poor communication issue all the way around. I've never met someone, ever, who is a shitty, awful partner, but a great friend. Or vice versa. I've never met someone who's a bad friend and just an A+ wife, girlfriend. I'm sorry, I don't see that. If you can't be bothered to call someone back, if you flake on plans, if you're distracted when you hang out, I don't think that you're any better in your interpersonal relationships because of entitlement. You don't feel like you should have to be. You have to listen to me, but I don't have to listen to you. Rules apply to you, they don't apply to me. Right? It's this poison that permeates every aspect of your life if you don't get a grip on it. And it's not fun. It's not fun. But we always got to walk in the light of the truth. And sometimes light hurts our eyes. Sometimes it's way more comfortable to stay in the dark. Doesn't make your head hurt. But what do you really want out of life? Do you want relationships that are healthy and happy? Or do you want to be a LEA Michele where it's like, man, she had her time in the sun being a jerk, for sure. And being punitive and having control over people. And that must have been really fun. It must have felt great. And this one dude, he even shared a story. He was on Glee And he said that he was friends with like Chris Colfer and Darren Criss, like two of the guys on Glee. And they were like, come sit with us at lunch. Come on and sit. And then halfway through lunch, an associate producer comes over and is like, you need to move because one of the cast members doesn't think you belong here. And it was Leah. And he like went back to his trailer and cried. What kind of 12-year-old fuck shit is that? I mean, honestly, like she might have played a teenager. She was not a teenager. That show ended 5 years ago. She's 33 now. Do the math. She was a grown adult. She was a grown adult. And to be acting like that is like, how cold-blooded animal are you, Leah? Where you just gotta turn those screws. Oh, sorry, my back is killing me. Living in Montana is active. People, all they want to do is want to be outdoors all the goddamn time. I'm taking riding lessons every day. I'm taking shooting lessons all the time. And I am using muscles I didn't even know I had. Like my internal pectorals are sore. Like my cleavage muscles are sore from holding a Glock 9 for 7 hours and shooting 600 rounds. I'm not meant to be a warrior. I'm meant to be I was going to say a victim. Oh my God, that's terrible. No, I'm not meant to be a victim. Definitely not meant to be a victim. But I guess I am meant to do a little bit more weightlifting. So we're going to try to do that. Anyway, yeah, Leah, it's like small dick energy. She's like a beta male. Kinda, like people who have to act like that. It's like, how much do you have to oppress other people to feel good about yourself? What's going on? If you had a penis, I would say you're packing a good 2.5 inches rock hard. But you don't have a penis. So I don't understand where this pissing contest is coming from. It's just, it goes to show that like this behavior comes in all shapes, sizes, categories, genders, whatever. We see it a lot. And if we don't want to be one of these people, because who does? Really? I mean, again, like having power over other people, okay, but I want to have mastery over myself. I want to have mastery over my emotions. I don't want to be ruled by anxiety or fear or anything like that. I want to have mastery over my talents. I want to be able to harness my talents and use them for good and money, like, and Glock 9mm. Like, I don't want to just control other people. It honestly sounds tiring. And it was tiring. I've experienced it in my past relationships and it's exhausting. There's only so many hours in the day. We only have so much energy. And I talk about energy budgets a lot, that we got to budget our energy the same way we budget money. And if we're budgeting so much of this energy to hold other people down, we're not advancing our life at all. And isn't Leah proof of that? Look at how she behaved. All that energy she spent at that lunch table that day, eating her sandwich, looking around at who doesn't belong, she could have been working on a business plan. She could have been writing songs that were actually listenable for her solo album. She could have been like building up her online following, doing brand partnerships. She could have been doing something useful, but she didn't. And her career after Glee reflected that. It reflected that lack of follow through, that lack of empathy, and the lack of proper energy allocation. So being a mean girl doesn't really pay off. And I know that we look at them at work and we're like, well, it's paying off for that bitch because she's my boss now. You know what? Let the baby have its bottle. Let the baby have its bottle. Great. So she's assistant to the regional manager now. What do you want? You don't want victory. You want peace because you're an alpha. You want quality relationships. You want compartmentalization of work and relationship. You want to have a whole balanced life. And if you're hemorrhaging energy trying to be mean to people and hold other people down to get your sense of personal power fulfilled, you are never going to achieve that. It's just never going to happen. There's simply not enough energy. I want to know when you guys went through your own mean girl phases, and if you've had a Karen style meltdown, let's be honest, a lot of us have thought about going, not like racial Karen, not like that, but like Kohl's Karen or like post office nonsense. You're just like, nothing about this makes sense. Nothing about this makes sense. You have to call Wells Fargo and you're like, I don't want you to lock my credit card. I just need, can you, when you just deal with customer service and you're like, I am just at the end of my tether. We've been there. Tell me what things drive you guys the craziest, and we can try to have a toolbox. We can try to develop a toolbox on how to deal with the things that make us the craziest so that we don't have to Karen out. Because I don't want to see any of you in jorts or minivans. For more, click like and subscribe. Also, be sure to follow me on Instagram at shallonxo. And like I said, if you want a video shout out, find me on Cameo at shallonxo. Bye, guys.